The Concept and Design Tool, or short CDT, offers an easy and effective way to design the process control system architecture for SIMATIC PCS7, but also go down deep into detailed specifications and settings. With this how to use video, you will learn the handling and get an overview about the features and benefits of the CDT. Before starting with the configuration in the CDT, we have a look at the plant structure first. For example, a production process includes many physical devices and one control system, which consists of controllers and I/O modules. This small process unit has four main physical equipments. If we think about the modules and their locations, we can describe it with a tree structure. And with the tree structure, the I/O of Mixer 1 and Mixer 2 are located in the same central cabinets with the controller. Remote stations for Distillation 1 are located inside a building. Then, with Distillation 2, it is located in the field with SIMO codes and other Profinet devices that are connected as an MRP ring. Different locations have different requirements for I/O. Thus, in CDT, we have four location types for periphery. In the CDT, the process unit describes a collection of one or multiple automation systems, each containing one controller and I/Os in the central cabinet with attached remote locations. Many process units can align with each other in one process area. Normally, a process area is independent with distributed servers, but they can share clients in central control room. Here, we focus on process areas, and each process unit will have automation systems with several I/O locations. We can create the same tree structure and apply it in the CDT project. Now we start to build up the plant structure inside the CDT. A draft process control structure will guide you in building up the overview picture of the entire project. Here, you can create new process units and rename them. By default, only one automation system is created in a process unit, but you can add more manually if you like. For each automation system, you can add remote I/O locations. I/O locations are a physical concept. One location consists of many remote stations and Profinet devices. To provide the best possible experience, the CDT followed the visually aided approach from the very beginning of the development and went through several review cycles to provide the best visual presentation on all the relevant layers of a process control system. In the configuration page, Control Layer, many products and DCS functions can be selected depending on the project requirements. You will find here a generalized representation of all the relevant specifications regarding software and server stations. In the left area, you choose the amount of clients in the control room and throughout the plant, and specify the network settings for terminal and plant network. You can also define your server architecture as single station, OS single station, and server client, which leads to different system limits and calculation rules in the background. This includes redundancy for server and automation stations. On the right menu, you can select all relevant software features that your customer may ask for. In the standard functions, you can select security features like antivirus or whitelisting, specify system administration via the management console, choose archiving and reporting options like process historian and information server, select multi-user engineering and process simulation, or plant and device management features. You can even add more options like batch, root control, logic matrix, or SFC, and many more features in the extended software list. You can specify additional licenses directly at the clients. Each selection is reflected on the visual representation on the left side by adding additional stations, or by mapping your function to the corresponding hardware. With that approach, you have a perfect overview of your setup, and you can show immediately what software would require additional hardware or could run on the already configured one. Now let's start to input periphery data. At the beginning, we define remote I/O locations to different location types. Typically, we distinguish between safe and hazardous areas, the integration of the devices, e.g. via fieldbus or direct connection to the cabinet with the relevant standard X and failsafe modules. After this, you have the possibility to enter your I/Os, both for Profinet and Profibus devices on plant level view. Just select your required I/O station type in the left overview and add the I/O numbers for each required module in the nicely arranged detail view that is located to the right. The CDT calculates the needed amount of I/O stations, including required network components, base modules, and of course the I/O modules themselves. If you have not yet specified a matching remote location for an I/O station, the system will automatically add one. In the standard mode, the concept and design tool scales up your system automatically in the best cost-performance ratio. This means the minimal amount of needed automation stations are calculated by your overall I/O inputs. Therefore, the system is always consistent and AS overloads are avoided. But of course, you can add more automation stations manually if you have an individual requirement. By default, your entered I/Os are evenly distributed across all automation stations. But if you are deeply involved in your project and get more detailed information like P&ID drawings or detailed I/O list, and maybe even specify controller requirements, you can proceed to the expert mode. You will then have the option to individually distribute the I/Os to each automation system and decentral I/O locations in the Details per AS Remote Location section of the Periphery tab. In here, you have the full control over the allocation of I/Os to individual controllers, and you can reassign the I/Os completely towards your desired target state. The big advantage is that the individual load of the controller is calculated in real time. Thus, you are immediately notified if an overload exists for a specific AS. If this occurs, you have multiple options to resolve the overload. Of course, you can redistribute your I/Os and/or add additional AS manually. But you can also switch to the AS Performance Calculation tab by clicking on the overloaded controller icon. Here, you can choose a more powerful AS or reduce the overall complexity reserve and/or customer reserve rate. Additionally, you have also the possibility to override the calculated cycle times, not only on an individual AS, but also for an entire process unit. This is also possible later on, even at the plant level in the expert mode. As the expert mode is for experienced users, the system will not add any additional controllers automatically anymore. But it will calculate the amount needed. You can always add them to your structure on demand with just one click. The CDT is providing a fully defined hierarchical project or plant structure as a final output. This structure provides not only both transparency and details, but also follows the PCS7 recommended reference architecture in terms of organization of your project. So you have better insight to the project as well as structural consistency. The plant structure is accessible via the Plant Structure tab in each CDT project. You will find here both a tree-based detailed area as well as an overview drawing to easily find and navigate through the multiple process units, automation stations, remote locations, and even individual I/O stations. The complete plant structure can be downloaded as an aggregated bill of material, or even as a full-blown structure with a complete hierarchy and every single details as an XLS file. If you find any of the predefined solutions not suitable for your project and you cannot address these requirements in any of the previous tabs, you can redefine the required components at any time by entering the Edit mode. Now you are free to add additional components from a library clearly structured by categories. Or search for additional Siemens parts by article number. Or even add third-party components manually. Besides that, you can also add or delete complete nodes in your structure. You will find an indication for manually added or changed components in the tree structure itself to easily identify the changes you have done. One major benefit here is that you are always able to restore the recommended default state at any time. Even if you have deleted standard components or nodes, you will find information about the originally calculated quantities. Your schematic PCS7 process control system architecture perfectly designed. Start your projects fast and easy with the CDT.